Hello everyone and welcome to my virtual presentation. I'm Christos Moussas from Purdue University and I will be presenting the paper titled Toward Understanding the Effects of Virtual Character Appearance on Avoidance Movement Behavior. When exploring how a virtual character impacts a human's reaction, the most common concern is that of the appearance of the virtual character. The understanding of the uncanny valley effect, which expresses a negative response for the user who is observing a human-like virtual character, is an ongoing investigation and the most common problem in the variety of stimuli used to represent different appearances of the virtual character. In this paper, we approach this problem by using a variety of virtual characters while keeping the realism of appearance and motion constant. Understanding how participants' reactions and perceptions are affected when interacting with virtual characters with different appearances could help developers to more precisely develop the parts of the virtual reality experience that include human virtual character interaction. Thus, this study investigates whether the appearance of the virtual character can affect user movement behavior and how these potential movement changes could be associated with participants' self-reported ratings. In our study, participants were asked to perform avoidance maneuvers from a start to a finishing point, having the virtual character placed in the middle of the 2 points. Each participant had to experience only one of the conditions of the experiment. Specifically, each participant was asked to perform the collision avoidance maneuver by assuming the character of either only a mannequin, human, cartoon, robot, or zombie virtual character. Since we're aware that virtual characters can be used to understand how participants perceive a character's appearance, and since human motion can be used to assess interaction with virtual environments and virtual characters, we assume that it might be feasible to extract a fair amount of user information pertaining to the association between avoidance behavior and the appearance of the virtual characters by examining how participants react and maneuver themselves when encountering mixed types of virtual characters. 2 goals set for this study. The first goal was to investigate whether the appearance of a virtual character could affect the participants' movement behavior and perception during a collision avoidance task. The second goal was to investigate whether there is a correlation between the avoidance movement measurements and the self-reported ratings of our participants. Our goals are embodied in the following research questions. Are there differences in the avoidance movement behavior of participants across the 5 experimental conditions? Are there emotional and perceptual changes across the 5 experimental conditions? How do characters with neutral and pleasant appearance compare with aversive virtual characters? Does the measured data from participants' avoidance movement behavior correlate with the participants' self-reported ratings? In our study, participants were recruited in various ways. Emails were sent to undergraduate and graduate students, posters were placed on notice boards around campus, and in-class announcements were made. In total, 60 students participated in the study on a voluntary basis. All participants provided informed consent form in accordance with the Institutional Review Board of Purdue University. The study group consisted of 44 male and 60 female students. Participants were assigned to each group randomly. We also made sure to keep a roughly equal ratio of female participants in each group. Only the human character group consists of 4 female participants, while each of the rest of the groups consists of 3 females. Each participant experienced only one of the 5 conditions according to our between-group design. In each condition, the examined virtual character was placed in the middle of the virtual environments, as is shown in this image. All characters had similar height and shoulder width in order to standardize experimental conditions across the participant groups. Moreover, the characters were not scripted to look at the participants. Both avoidance movement behavior data, including length, clearance, and speed, and questionnaire responses, including emotional reactivity, emotional contagion, attentional location, behavioral dependence, presence, immersion, virtual character realism, and virtual character unpleasantness, were collected to investigate possible changes on the participants' reaction and perceptions during the experiment. The participants came to the motion capture studio where the experimental study took place. After the experimenter briefly informed the participants about the project, participants were asked to sign the provided consent form and to complete the demographic questionnaire. The experimenter helped the participants to attach the motion capture system and then the calibration process began. Then the experimenter assigned the participants with a backpack computer and the head-mount display. Once everything was set, participants were asked to take a short walk, first in the real room and then the virtual environment, to ensure that they were able to move comfortably when wearing all the required equipment. Finally, the participants were informed that once the application began, there would be a virtual character midway between the start and the goal position. A one-way analysis of variance was used to analyze the obtained data using the 5 experimental conditions as dependent variables and the avoidance movement behavior measurements and the answers from the questionnaires as dependent variables. In terms of movement measurements, significant results were found for length, clearance, and speed of our participants across the examined conditions. In terms of self-reporting ratings, significant results were found for emotional reactivity, emotional contagion, presence, virtual character realism, and virtual character unpleasantness across examined conditions. We conducted a correlation analysis to understand whether the avoidance movement behavior measurements of participants were correlated with the subjective self-reported ratings. In total, we examined 27 combinations between avoidance movement behavior measurements and the participants' emotional reactions and perceptions using a bivariate Pearson correlation. Our analysis revealed significant correlations between the movement behavior and the self-reported ratings. Our results indicated that the appearance of the zombie virtual character had an effect of the length of the trajectory, the clearance, and the speed of the participants. The avoidance movement behavior measurements indicate that the zombie character triggers stronger avoidance reaction by causing the participants to exhibit greater trajectory length, greater clearance distance, and higher walking speed when compared to the reactions to the other 4 virtual characters. The findings of the current study are quite promising and encouraging because they indicate that the virtual character appearance does indeed affect avoidance movement behavior. Our results have also indicated that perception and reaction levels indeed correlate with the measurements related to avoidance movement behavior of participants, and that the appearance of the virtual character can in fact affect human movement behavior. Despite the fact that our results indicate a number of different effects that had already been anticipated, we still benefited from confirming them empirically. Our results indicate that there is evidence that emotional reactivity, emotional contagion, and virtual character unpleasantness ratings can be inferred from the avoidance movement behavior of participants during locomotive tasks. To the best of our knowledge, this is a rather novel finding. For additional information about our study and our results, please refer to our paper. Thank you for attending my virtual presentation. Feel free to reach out with any questions.